This is the absolute war. Listen, every crypto asset is in danger if the SEC continues to pursue the type of allegations that it was asserting in the Ripple complaint.
In today's video, Attorney John Deaton discussed the latest with the SEC Ripple XRP lawsuit, the recent summary judgments from Ripple and the SEC, and what's next for the procedural process, likelihood of a settlement soon.
I want to remind people that me and my 76,000 friends, we've been fighting this for over 2 years. Listen, every crypto asset is in danger if the SEC continues to pursue the type of allegations that it was asserting in the Ripple complaint. A lot of people, I said ETH was implicated and all those other tokens. A lot of people said, that's hyperbole, John. You're spreading FUD. And today, what do we have? We have Algo and Dash. And with Algo, we all know that Chairman Gary Gensler in 2018 arguably shielded. He's up there on videos talking about his good friend who started Algo, basically calling it incredible technology that Uber and Lyft could be built on. Didn't Kim Kardashian have to settle for something far less? At least her tweet had hashtag AD as an ad, yet we have the chairman, before he's the chairman, talking about Algo. He didn't say it was a security back then. Just like we said back then, this is the absolute war. Let's talk about today's hearing and why the hearing was so important. We had both sides of the aisle questioning Gary Gensler on crypto, ESG, the SEC's attrition rate, and the fact that the SEC is driving innovation. Think about that Coinbase news. 2 years ago, Coinbase's IPO was approved by the Securities Exchange Commission. They listed out their business model that they were going to be listing these platforms. There are people from the SEC's Digital Asset Financial Hub. Okay, the crypto czar Valerie S. and Amy Starr. These are people who publicly complimented the Coinbase framework. Basically said that Coinbase had taken the SEC's framework and improved it. And they compliment. Yet 2 years later, we have Coinbase entertaining leaving the United States of America. We have reached the level of absurdity in this country with this out of control regulator that could never have been envisioned. And it all capped off with the big question by Patrick McHenry, who is the chair today, who basically asked the easy question. Remember, Gary Gensler says that the law is crystal clear. Well, if the law is crystal clear, as he suggests, then he certainly could answer whether or not the second largest cryptocurrency in the world is a security. And that's what he was asked. And he was asked point blank, can you say whether ETH is a security or a commodity? And what did Gary Gensler say? Gary Gensler said, I'm not going to talk about specific tokens. And masterfully, Patrick McHenry said, well, wait a minute. Not only have you spoken about Bitcoin, which is a specific token, but you've made a comment 53 times. There are 53 crypto enforcements, and each time you do a crypto enforcement, i.e. a Ripple case, you're claiming that there is a token that's a security. While he was sued, there were 9 tokens called securities. When Bittrex is sued, you're calling 6 tokens, including Algo and Dash, as securities. So clearly, as chairman of the SEC, you could answer that question. And yet he refused. Now, I want to give credit where credit is due. And everyone watching this and who participated with Connect to Congress, you need to take some credit because Bitcoin got mentioned today, ETH got mentioned today, Hinman speech got mentioned today, and even XRP got mentioned today. And if you think all that happens without us putting tens of thousands of messages through Connect to Congress and all the social media that has been geared toward these legislatures, then you're crazy. This didn't happen overnight. That is you making progress. I know it's slow progress, but it's progress. Now, Patrick McHenry did a great job, but I got to tell you, I'm sitting there salivating as a trial attorney, wishing that I could ask questions of follow-up, because Gensler said that ETH, he wouldn't answer whether it was a security, but he went on to say, well, if there are small group of entrepreneurs, and the follow-up question should have been, right, which is, okay, since you say that it's a security, if there are a small group of entrepreneurs, do you know any ETH small group of entrepreneurs who are promoting the token? Can you identify them? Push him on the hook. Now, of course, I'm not saying that I suggest that ETH is a security. I don't think it is, but I'm just telling you that is sort of the follow-up. But it's absurd that if you have all these enforcement actions, the chairman can't give that answer. Now, the other thing, the number one thing that I took away from this hearing on specific questions that should absolutely scare the living shit out of everyone involved in crypto is the following. It was an open-ended question by Maxine Waters, where she just playing the partisan hack that she played in today's hearing, where she said questions like, do you have authority to regulate the crypto market? And of course he said yes, but she said, I want you to follow up your answer about what is a crypto. And this is what he said. He said, if there's a website, that's indication. If it is software that needs to be upgraded, that is indication of a security. If there are lawyers who have been hired to come in to meet with us, that is an indication of a security, because there's a small group of entrepreneurs involved. Just think about that for a second. The man has been saying for 2 years, come in and talk to us. Come in and talk to us. Now he's saying, if you come in and talk to him and you hired lawyers to do it, that indicates that you have a security. He literally said that today at the hearing. And then he also threw out, if there's Twitter accounts. So think about that. Website, Twitter accounts is upgrade, software being upgraded. So what's that tell you about what his thoughts are of Ethereum? He won't answer it, people, but you know clearly, meeting his definition, Bitcoin would be implicated. I'm not saying he's saying that. I'm just telling you, if you listen to what he said, wasn't there a Bitcoin Taproot software upgrade? Doesn't Bitcoin get upgraded? Ethereum upgrade, the Shanghai that just happened? All of those things indicate what we warned at Crypto Law a year and a half ago. Every single token is in danger with this guy. Moving on to the hearing. Gensler said he doesn't prejudge tokens, blah, 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 blah. The accountability was the next thing that we wanted to talk about, okay? Because Gensler does not seem bothered by this innovation leaving the United States. His answer was, well, if they don't come into compliance, then so what, basically? They can leave the United States. The other thing that he said that was fascinating and showed you his line, I tweeted about it, was when he was asked about stablecoin legislation. When he was asked about stablecoin legislation, if you look at his answer, he was very hesitant, but he said, we don't want to undermine the 100 trillion system in place. What is he saying to you? He's saying that Congress, be careful, whatever you legislate, we don't want to undermine our incumbent banking system. That's exactly what it is. Exactly what Hester Peirce just came out and said, and what I've been saying and others have been saying for 2 years, that this man is an agent of the incumbents who is there to protect them at all costs. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, which leads us to another thing that happened. He was asked by, and I want to give credit, but it was Pete Sessions, Congressman Pete Sessions out of Texas. And this is another thing that XRP holders and others should take credit for. How much did we litigate about this Hinman speech being personal opinion versus guidance bullshit? It was litigated quite a bit. Well, that came front and center at today's hearing with Pete Sessions, when he basically said to Gensler, if you're only speaking for yourself, then quote, what are you even doing here? What are you doing here if you can't speak as chairman of the SEC on the SEC? Chairman Gensler talks about how he's not speaking for the SEC. He's speaking as SEC chairman. And then Pete Sessions went on to talk about how Hinman and others talk about these definitive things about ETH and Bitcoin and other tokens, but none of it is guidance. And how is that possible? How can you go out and say, Bill Hinman, that ETH's not a security and it not be considered guidance? How can Gensler come out and say statements and testify but say it's not guidance? That alone proves this nonsense that everything is clear. Bottom line is, what does it all mean? The thing that I can tell you is that Gary Gensler was finally confronted by somebody. And I know a lot of you out there saying, well, it's not enough. They haven't issued subpoenas yet. Listen, this is Congress. We have a broken Congress, in my opinion. But this is the first step. Last time when the Democrats were in control, they didn't even have a hearing. It came out today that they didn't even ask Gary Gensler to come before the Senate Banking Committee. How is that possible? How is it possible with all these failures, with this innovation leaving? So that's the first step. And you got to take credit, because we have flooded the Congress. This voting block of crypto is going, our voices are starting to get heard. So that's something to take some encouragement from. The other thing is that the chair, Patrick McHenry, said, we're going to fix it, right? He said, okay, you're not giving guidance. You claim it's clear. It's not clear. We're going to fix it. It's important to know that tomorrow he's going to have stablecoin hearing on stablecoin. So again, it's a start. It's better than nothing. And that's what we have to look at. I went on record to say we're not going to get legislative clarity until late 2025 at best. I hope I'm wrong, but we have to keep pushing it. We have to keep having our voices heard. And the other thing, we're going to finish where we always begin, and in the middle, and that's this Ripple case. Because what we said 2 years ago, this case is the biggest case since 1946 in a non-fraud case, period. Hard stop. And what happens in the Ripple decision could very well put a stop, or at least slow down the momentum that Gary Gensler is pursuing. There's going to be more enforcement actions. I keep saying it. Coinbase is going to get sued. I do not believe that it is out the realm of possibility or likelihood that Gary Gensler isn't going to go after Binance and call Ethereum staking a security, even though the CFTC chairman says ETH is a commodity. Gary Gensler talks about the Wild Wild West. This regulation by enforcement is the true Wild Wild West. And finally, the court is where we win, period. We're not going to win in Congress, meaning the Democrats and the Republicans seem to have this divide. There are a couple Democrats that are coming around. I'm truly an independent. I've always voted independent, but this is becoming a political divide. And until there's another election and there's more of those who support crypto in power, we're not going to get legislation, which means we're going to have to continue to battle in court, and which puts this Ripple case even bigger. Each day I keep saying the impact and significance of Judge Torres's decision gets bigger and bigger as each day passes. And it's going to be even more important when we look at the litigation with Coinbase.